This is the worst fleet vehicle money can buy. This is a 2016 Ford Transit, and right now we're replacing the transmission in this thing. Now on one of these, pretty much anything you do is going to be a huge job, but the transmission is probably the hardest thing to do on these cars. Now what makes these cars so bad is the subframe sits right underneath the transmission pan, so to even remove the transmission pan, you got to remove the whole entire subframe. And getting this subframe out is not easy. So these bolts seize up into the frame up in here, and you got to buy new bolts and new fasteners for the frame every time you remove that subframe. Not only do you got to buy new bolts, but you probably got to buy new control arms every time because you got to melt the bushing to get the bolts out. And that's not even the worst part about these vehicles. The worst part, in my opinion, is the brake setup. Now, to do brakes on these things, you got to get the rotors off. And in order to get the rotors off, the hub has to come off first. And to do that, you got to get these Torx head bolts out down in here and beat the whole hub off with the rotor. That's probably the worst brake design I've ever seen. The rear brakes aren't easy either. To do the rear brakes, you got to pull the whole axle shaft out of the differential just to get to the rotors. Looks like those need to be done too. This whole car is literally a mechanic's nightmare, and if you're buying a fleet vehicle before you buy a Ford Transit, you might want to reconsider.